William. Atoin Juba, Paletori, hey, yo, Pin William. Atoin Benti, Walla Quaju, hey, wow, Pin William. Atoin Malkal, Walla Pinaram, Pin William.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to State Media. My name is Abraham Madin Majak. I'm with the Honorable Peter Mayen, Majongdit. Before we dive in our conversation, I would like you guys watching in YouTube and Facebook and to share this live show. So we will be before we start our discussion, I would like to play a little bit music while people are coming, and then we will start. So give us 5 minutes or less. So and then we will start our discussion. Thank you, guys.
You say we are free. I need a list to give you more better. It's all. You say we are free. Start sharing the video, guys. Start sharing. Thank you. I need a list of passion for your Moscow. I am, Jana Junubi, I am. Mafi Gurush, kissing Giwasha Shedi. Oh, Gian, Jana Junubi, Gian. Was to be late, Omakulu, and Fotu. Anatsapan, since 2011, Nadiasa, same level today. Anatsapan, 21 years, no one is safe when you but to take a home. Dead bodies recovered on the river nights. Only God knows when the killers will be found. Oh no, non-beggars everywhere. The youth are dying on the streets. Well, we're finished from the bullets of the unknown gunmen and got the raiders. I am, Jana Junubi, I am. Mafi Gurush, Gilson Giwasha Shedi. Oh, Gian, Jana Junubi, Gian. Was to be late, Omakulu, and Fotu. Anatsapan, since 2011, Nadiasa, same level today. Anatsapan, 21 years, fighting freedom, and we are fighting ourselves today. In this time,
share the video, share both of you.
In this time of everything, where is time for our peace? We're praying for this country. Oh, school fees, and I love you on the phone. We met at Takoma, the university Takoma. Bigger guy. Yeah, the promise of free education by Dr. John Scott. Anatsaban, City Shoe, Marvin Bay, and Later Shabby. Oh, Anatsaban, Summer Shoe, Marvin Bay, and Lewis Nasa Suku. Oh, Anatsaban, since 2011, 7-11 today.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. This is the wonderful song. Let me repeat this one. It's very meaningful. While I'm waiting for Honorable to come back. Okay, he's back. So let me close that music. So thank you very much, everybody who tuning in State Media on Facebook and YouTube and also in Clubhouse. And also, too, I would like to welcome Honorable Peter Mayen. Both of you, you guys familiar with Peter Mayen. You guys been in arena in political. He's a former humanitarian, and also he's running the political party So he's also he cleared himself. He's running for presidency, the 2024 election. So let me welcome Honorable Peter Mayen Dengdit. Thank you, Peter Mayen Majongdit, for accept Lake State invitation. So I will give you this few minutes to introduce yourself before we dive in our conversation. So microphone is yours. Further.
Thanks to the Lake State Media to be hosted for the second time. My name's Peter Man Majongdit. I'm a member of Parliament and also a former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. Far most importantly, the President of the People's Liberal Party, and I lead the biggest coalition of political parties, that is the umbrella political parties. And among other assignments and among other responsibility, I'm also signatory to the peace agreements and to the roadmap. In short, I am a politician in South Sudan, and I really want to be happy, and I'm happy to engage with you in these few minutes, and I really welcome the discussions, and I would be very much happy to be with you, the Lake State Media, and the entire viewers across the world. And I just want to say, I love you, the South Sudanese, either in abroad or at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You are on the
media.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Peter Mayandi. Before we, let me ask you, the reason why Lake State Media invited you for this show today is because there is a post that you posted in your Facebook timeline. We caught South Sudanese people in social media and back home attention. And this is what you post a couple days ago. You wrote it that this is the most failed Ministry of Finance I have ever seen in South Sudan history. His reform agenda ended in title corruptions. It is theory and unrealistic. While families are suffering, institutions are unable to function. Anyway, as a national member of parliament, I need my salary before Christmas season, for sure. So, and then you put Dinka Port Bab. So, yeah, my question to you today, as you mentioned that the ministry you were referring to, the current Ministry of Finance, Dr. Bak Barnaba Scholl. So, my question to you, can you explain to the people of South Sudan what you mean about that? What can you talk? Can you please talk about the salary delay, saying the Ministry of Finance is the most failed ministry? Why don't you summarize in the parliament and the question him? Like, why don't you invite the Minister of Finance to parliament to question him? So go ahead and explain yourself. Thank you.
Myself, and I do understand challenges a minister could face, but each and every the Minister of Finance should have not just start with a theory, which I said is unrealistic, because basically we have a lot of policies that are not in place when it comes to our economic system, and including the fact that also it has to do effective reforms, and those reforms it just not end up in one day. The reform we have just seen is basically forming a committee and believing that there are ghost names. Perhaps they are there. That's out of questions, or they may not have been there. But what did we see in the ground? What we saw in the ground, those people or those who are appointed as a committee basically ended up in corruptions. Getting money to the states and bringing money back. What should have Minister of Finance have started from? One, it should have started, first of all, to look and strengthen the financial policy in terms of financial institutions, which I can just basically name a few. The fact people say that there's no money, they are unable to pay salary, it's not true, because South Sudanese, either here or anywhere, basically they are paying taxes. And how does he need to generate money? How does the government functions? So you should have really started with the institutions that brings incomes, the institutions that actually are productive. And I think I'll elaborate over that. To me, its theory is unrealistic. And you have to begin somewhere and end up somewhere. And if you look at the history of South Sudan economics, when we got the independence, the pound was almost nearly 0.5 against the dollar. And where are we today? Why? And those are the questions definitely needed to be mentioned, because basically the financial institutions that are supposed to be functioning with effective policy are not really doing their job. And that's where the policy should have begun from.
Okay, thank you. Well, my first question, why don't you, the parliament, okay, my question to why don't Parliament invited the Minister of Finance to question him?
It's being driven by the executive. That's a simple question.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So the general explanation. The general explanation is very simple. Lake State media. First and foremost, the country has a big gap between the middle class and the lower class. And then the financial institutions have not been empowered. And actually is the government that is basically robbing the financial institutions, the insurance institution, I mean the insurance companies, and also the banking. So there is a big, huge gap that needed to be fixed. And basically, I would have loved to see the Minister of Finance basically working toward policy, and those policies will be the driving force to improve the country. So it's not targeting South Sudanese who are taxpayers and denying them of their salary. When it comes to issue of salary, salary is a basic right for every South Sudanese that is basically doing a work that's basically working. So they work for the government in different institutions, and they must have the right to have their salary.
So now for the salary.
Come again?
Okay. So you are having okay. So you talk about the parliament didn't receive their salary. And the private sector didn't receive their salary. So is it the problem of Minister of Finance fall to pay out the salary of ministries or any other private sector to pay their salary monthly? So what is the reason here? Is it because there is no money available to pay the ministries and private sector?
There is money. And it's not just only the parliament or institutions. Due to the fact that I was not the spokesperson in the National Legislative Assembly. So when I call for my salary, I don't call for my own salary, but rather I call for the salaries of the entire country. And they haven't been having salaries for the last 5 months. And today, basically, you look at it, people are going for Christmas, and most of them spend their Christmas with their families at the countryside. And when they go to the countryside, they do not have access for transportation, either by road or by air, not even by river, river transportation. So this is a major factor. The truth on the fact is that a lot of money has been spent on issues that are not priorities to South Sudanese. If any dignitary is traveling, his money comes out first in dollar. And if anything said to be in regard to the vice presidents, to the presidents, to anyone, it come up very quick. So we ask ourselves basically, where does this money comes from? If the country doesn't have money and salaries are not being paid, and each and every South Sudanese is taxed. And actually, if you look at the index of the recent increase of taxes from the business, even those who are doing small businesses, they are paying their taxes. The city council is gathering money. The National Revenue Authority have money. So it's a question of ignoring the citizen and looking at other things said to be priority, such as security. If you find a small insecurity in particular area, then that's where the money is put on. So this is basically a major issue, and we want to see a change. And we do not want theory. What I said about theory was basically the Minister of Finance had formed a committee to all the states. And what are the reports that we are witnessing on the ground? The committee go and pay certain ministries, leave other ministries. And then they say there's no money. And then that money where are not being found, they say there's no money. So what happened next? The money come back to Juba. So basically, I am totally against the fact that he is forming a committee that with ghost names and driving people of salary. What are the first steps you need to start with if that reform is need to be effective? First of all, you utilize, okay, you should have a data that is available before you take that particular action. And so to me is a total corruption, and the ministry cannot just be reformed within a day. And I have been a minister. I know which ministry is better in functions and which are not better in functions. And all of this actually affects the common citizens in all these particular areas. And I think I would be pretty happy to tell the viewers what are the options and what are the alternatives, how South Sudan can be able to get out from this total mess and gradually can be able to recover in terms of economic reforms, in terms of even being able to have salaries, being able to be able to do a lot of things. So this is basically what we are saying.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Peter Mayen. Yes, as you mentioned regarding about the taxpayers. As you know, South Sudan, 80% or 95% are employee. They don't have job, especially youth. And that 1% or 2% that who are employed by government, they are the one who are paying taxes, if I can hear it from you. So these paying taxes, because the employment rate in the country is skyrocketing. Everybody is employed. And this is where the government is depend on oil money. That's where the oil money are the one that are the money they're using to pay government workers and any other like school education and also people working at healthcare and the rest. And these people too, like teachers, for instance, they don't pay their salary as you just mentioned. So, and you mentioned that the country have money. So where this money go? If the money are there, and the government fail to pay their workers, like ministries and others, where this money go exactly? If there's money there, can you tell being where the money go? If there's a money in the country. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Once I did this travel, was going on in country, particularly in area of flood that was happening. And I saw whenever there is money, a committee comes in, and the committee that comes in, sometimes they may form a committee towards emergency, sometimes they form a different committee. So To answer you in very short is that the money does not go toward the priority that is needed toward the citizen, but the money basically goes to priority of the government.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you
My
very
next
much.
question,
My question,
you
you,
you mentioned,
you mentioned.
and hang on, you talk about the reform, the economy reform. Can you elaborate more about the reform that the country needs for the economy? What the reform do South Sudan?
And the biggest questions that we all South that South Sudan is rich in its resources and the economic has to be justified. We are totally against the fact that we are being narrowed to the oil money, which comes and goes with a lot of conditions, and which cause also an environmental effect towards our citizens that are living in that particular area. It also causes trouble of jobs. Everyone want to work at the oil industry in order to be able to be better off. Uh, the fact that we need to justify our economic, because basically, if the oil sector is overloaded and it has caused a lot of corruptions that is happening today, we also need to look the other side of where we could be able to get. We have the mining industry, and in South Sudan we have all kind of minerals that basically you need. And the fact that the mining industry is not really being developed, it has affected greatly the South Sudan economic sector. Because if you look at the mining industry itself, basically, of course, our laws are good, and it's not that we have not exert effort towards that. Who will comes and it employs even the local, and that's one factor. The other factor is that we have to empower financial institutions. Financial institutions, when I'm talking about uh, insurance companies, I'm talking about banking company, and leave that alone. Uh, we are actually a hardworking citizen in South Sudan. So basically, there is a lot of need for us to be able to improve in a numerous of industrial sector. Apparently, we do not even have a, a small factor that's even produced soap. What we know, what we have is we have water, safe, that means drinking water. That's basically what is. These are the companies that are available here. So we have to improve in industry sector in its all level, and we also have to invest in technology because it's also a really very important field. I feel so, with all respect to the Rwanda, but I feel jealous when I see the difference between Rwanda and South Sudan in terms of technology. It's really very, very big gap. And we have to have a proper monitoring system. The banking system, apparently, the banks have been robbed by the national banks. And even the banks do not even have more trust to the national bank. So the National Bank of South Sudan requires a lot of improvement, a lot of what needs to be done. It's not a question of changing personalities, uh, bringing in a new governor for the bank, and also tomorrow bringing in a new governor for review. And this is very important in a number of sectors. Leave alone that sector. Uh, what is more important is also to improve the agriculture sector. Apparently, if I'm to ask whether we have a really major company that's investing in agriculture sector, nothing. So it's basically getting food from the neighboring countries, and then we consume them. We don't know. And our also Bureau of Standard is unregulated, very poor. So these are institutions, the Minister of Finance should have really focused in. He should have, he actually shouldn't focus his mind on salaries, because basically this should be an automatic that when it comes the end of the month, those who are employed by the government should get their salaries. Of course, the government can never employ all of them, and that's why we need to bridge the gap between rich and poor in order to be able to close those gaps. so that people do not just look at the government, do not look at political position. People do not look at this as the only source of employment. People should not just look at the national NGOs, companies, and international companies as part of employment. And the worst part we have apparently is that we do not have pension. So basically, I have worked for 3 years as a national minister, and I have not even got my pension. So basically, that's why ministers probably usually walk away with their cars, they walk away with unspeakable corruptions, because basically they always say, okay, I was in the government, what have you offered to me? And apparently that's what also caused insecurity in South Sudan, because also you find soldiers, you have served in the military, you have served in any sector, and there is no function. And then the private sector has not been developed. So basically, the major focus for the government is to be able to create a better relationship and a better policy between the private sector and the government, so that those private sectors are empowered. When you look at uh, the banks that we have, apparently we have the Nile, we have South Sudan commercial banks, and all of this, the relations and the level of empowerment that the government is doing to them has become a problem, or basically it's not working out, to say this. So we have to destroy the image that apparently exists by actually, of course, it's not questions of liberalizing the economic sector. It's not a questions of creating a free market. That's not the real questions. The real question is policy need to be put in place so that each and every person knows that there is an existing policy that's work things out. I do know a number of ministers until today that I left them in the office. They do not even have a house. They keep renting. And I do know a number of ministries that today exist that do not have primacy where they can be able to function. So you basically have a deal with the landlord, and then what next is basically you pay the landlord and become the ministry, and if there's any room at the backyard, then becomes yours. So what is the problem? The land exists, so these key issues need to be addressed. These are the key issues need to be made, and that's why actually we are against too much dependence on oil, and therefore we are looking at oil as an income, though, but should be set in a certain factors. And we go on hosting, which is not bad for goodwill, for everything, okay, forum and international things that we could not even afford by ourselves. So uh, these are some of the major factors that affect the economic in South Sudan, and how South Sudan economic need to be redeemed basically is by strengthening the middle class so that they could be able to have a diverse economic that is basically empowered both the private sector and the government sector. And what is the government investment that we have seen? Nothing apart from the Nile Pipe, which is connection to the oil. And we have never seen an estate more productive, that is more able to support the industrialization, that able to support the industry. It's not there. Several sectors has been left redundant, including the fact that when it comes to livestock, of course, being a dinka, I know, how much revenue can just be generated from cattle keeping. Leave alone about that. We have fish, then we have to create a network, and so all of these things, I think these are the issues that uh, the South Sudanese need to focus on. And in most countries, not every country, but in most countries, basically, they do have uh, advisory board that definitely advise the either all the financial institutions. I don't want to talk about Ministry of Finance. I don't want to talk about the Revenue Authority. I don't want to talk about other sectors. And we need to start one step by the other. Of course, we have other challenges, but all these challenges can be eliminated. And it's not the question that there is no resources. I don't believe on that. Because a resource is something that generated by you as a human being in order to move forward. Yes, relative peace is very important. The peace agreement as well is very important. Security is also very important. And therefore, we really do need to develop the industries. We really do need to move forward. We really do need to look at the other sectors. I ask myself a question every day. Why do we send those youth to the bush rather than sending them to the farm? Because basically, we have enough ability, we have enough land that can feed the entire East Africa. Then again, I ask myself whether we as South Sudanese are we lazy? I find myself I'm not a lazy man. I work day and night. So these are ways. These are the issues the Minister of Finance need to focus in. If he's focusing on salaries, okay, now it has come a time. There is no money, as he said. He does not have enough money to pay for the 5-month salaries of South Sudanese citizens. Why? Because basically there is no clear economic policy that can be able to move South Sudan forward. Because the money is generated. How much do we have in South Sudanese as a reserve? These questions definitely need to be answered by 2024 election in a bigger economic debate.
Thank you very much for
Thank you very much for
my next question is
my next question
is you talk very much, you talk a lot about corruption in the country. So can you talk about corruption? So can you explain the detail? Who are those corrupted in the system? Who are those? If you can explain more, because the corruption in the country now is a big challenge. And you explain it, and you said
corruption
in the Ministry of Finance.
in
Can
the
you
Ministry of Finance. Can you explain
in detail
Well,
happening in the system? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's very simple. I'm not going to point finger at anyone, and I'm not going to mention names, but I'm just going to give simple examples of the corruptions. If I begin of what I've just started on today, it was simply the Minister of Finance has formed a committee, and then the money are taken to various states. Some states are paid, some states are not paid. And even in those states which have been paid, some ministries are paid, some ministries have not been paid. So what is that? That's the corruption. Because who is not a South Sudanese? We are all South Sudanese. And we deserve our own wages. We deserve our own salaries as one. Secondly, when it comes to several institutions, there are several scandals that have gone around. And most of it, you find basically the shareholders are politicians, my colleagues. Some may be former ministers. And simple example, can Lagos State media or can everyone do a research why Vivasil was shut down? And so it was all about scandal. And if you look at some institutions, like South Sudan National Insurance, this institution was brought down to their knees because of the fact that there were elements within the government that definitely never want things to move forward. And if there are so many examples, and of course, we will not say everyone is corrupt in South Sudan. We will not say every institution is corrupt in South Sudan. But I have said it long time ago that there are individuals whom I sat with them at the Council of Ministers, and they to South Sudan. And I always tell them in their face in a private discussion. And we have several banks that if they're supported, definitely things can move forward. Because there are two factors where the government gets revenue, there's where the government gets money, and those issues, not that they don't know, they do know, and that's why there is a real need to have a new government in place, and that government, we can be able to work with people of South Sudan. I don't want to talk about the private sector. And if I'm also to give you one of the few examples, I can also give two few examples. I do know the money that was paid for the construction of South Sudan airport in Juba. And whenever a new minister comes in, you have a new terms and the job doesn't go up. We have the worst terminal in the whole world. Even though the runway is good, as the one in Wow. So what happens to those money were taken? I also know about the corruption of the presidential jet. Currently, our president fly on a foreign airline. But during my time, I'm not going to fly on a foreign airline. I'm going to fly in South Sudan jet, which I will leave it to the next president. So these are a few examples to what corruption that had occurred.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question. Daniel Valentino she asking you this: where is the committee payment are coming out? Where are the detailed incentive come from? And where do money that they are using for travel costs coming from? So that is going to what you said. So can you explain more about, because this is a very good question. Those people who go overseas, like they are going for treatment, travel overseas, they spend $1 million. Okay. So where these money come from, actually? These money are coming out from the oil money? Is this the reason why the government failed, or Minister of Finance failed to pay salary on time? So go ahead and explain that. That's a good question going forward to what you said.
Yeah, this is a very nice question. Even though I'm not the Minister of Finance, and neither am I an executive, but I'm a part of this government. If the Minister of Finance want to do reform, why should he have not appointed an independent committee that could be able to do the screening and the payment of salaries? All of these were actually selected and then decided by the minister by himself. And therefore, the National Economic Advisory Board is very important. If I was in his place, and when we will come in his place, this is a job in according to our policy, the Gateway. There should be there a National Advisory Committee that actually advise all the economic sector. So simply, I could tell Nyanwaldi basically that it was the making up of the minister, and he knows who has appointed to which state and who is the committee. When it comes to the accommodation, the accommodations come from the government, from the same money. Their transport is from the same money. And in fact, they do not even cooperate with the state ministers. And they are ending up to pay whoever they want to pay and then return the money back to their boss. And we have evidence.
Okay, thank you.
You know,
The issues of finance minister, this position, that there are many. President Salva Kiir get rid of most of people who are come to say, they say that he will come and fix the incoming issues. And the same thing, there's no change in the in economy. Is it the problem? Is it the Minister of Finance having issues, or the system have a problem? Because same ministries who are coming, they don't do anything. Okay. So can you explain more about, is it the problem is the system
The
itself,
problem is the system itself,
or the finance
or
ministry?
the finance.
There are two problems that do exist here, and the third one is insignificant though. The first issue, whenever you come to a ministry, when I come to Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, I followed up the existing policy that was there, and I picked up from there, like the Sandy framework, and I start working and picking from where the former minister has stopped in. So I asked for policies that were there. I found there were 3 policies, and I also developed another 3 policies that should be followed by any genuine minister that comes in. So the question is basically about policy that exists. The Minister of Finance do not have a clear policy that whoever comes in as a minister, he can follow it up. Secondly, is what you have just mentioned, is the system. The system is that if I come in as Peter Mayen, Majongdit as Minister of Finance, then the entire community and the area will come in. So there will be certain sensitive positions. If your minister who brought you is relief, you could just automatically park like the way I parked and I went to the cattle camp. So that's the real fact. Okay. So we are really calling, we actually saying there must be there a clear policy when each and every minister comes in, he follows so that he can be held accountable. And then thirdly, which I have said is insignificant, that mentality is wrong. That if I am from Kwajok and you remove me, you bring someone from Kwajok, it's unproductive. So there is no way we can change about 4 ministers, who just hail from one place to the other. So we are not building a nation on that manner. So if we want to build a nation, like I have said, I'm running as a presidential candidate, I do believe that I have my manifesto, which is the gateway. I do believe that I have the ability to lead this country. I do believe that I'm a patriotic and a genuine South Sudanese. And I do believe that I'm courageous. Even if I'm slaughtered, I will die in the name of South Sudanese. So these are real factors that are really very important. So there is a lot of change. And I would ask the Minister of Finance, did he not get anything that he need to do reform on, apart from salaries of a common force, families that are really living in a hardship? And what are these salaries? Those salaries could not even afford a meal for 10 days. So now, if you give salary out and they cannot afford a meal for 10 days, and you are taking that money away from them, denying other ministries, denying other states, are you not barring South Sudanese? And who held you that you should be allowed to build to bury South Sudanese? South Sudanese. South
Yeah,
Sudanese
that's a
are
question.
separate.
Yeah, that's a history.
Okay, there's a question coming from Kuch Junior Makir. He's asking you this: do you think the rate of dollars will differ against the South Sudanese pound? If you think so, what are the meanings to be employed to cap the raising rate of dollars against South Sudanese pound? So that is another thing challenge. So can you talk more about that? Because you see the dollar rate now in the country, it just go up like $100 now is 110 or something thousand. So South Sudanese pound it has become meaningless. It's just a paper. So what will, like as you said that you are running for president, if the people of South Sudan elected you in 2024, what will you do different than President Salva Kiir government to reform the economy, to make sure the dollar rate to reduce to go down like the way before? when South Sudan got independent, I remember $100 was by then was $1 was like a 2 pound or 3 pound. So what can you do to reduce the dollar rate and to reform the economy if you are president?
Thank you. I'm very much honest with South Sudanese oftenly. The dollar will not reduce overnight, but we must address the root cause. Why do we have a high rate of the dollar? And it's simple, it's clear. It's the fact that we are consumers. So we are really going to change the narratives. Changing the narratives in the fact that we must be exporting things out that brings an incomes, and that we will be gradually a major factor how the dollar rate can go down. Why the dollar could not go up? It has to go up because the fact is that apart from the oil that comes from outside, we are completely consuming society. We are basically consuming everything. So if you need a soap, you must get it either from Uganda or Kenya. Is it difficult to manufacture a soap company? And we do have a lot. So our National Economic Action Plan actually will help to address the root cause. But meanwhile, there are also other issues that we can help the rate of the dollar to come down. For example, apparently the banking or the banks and the insurance companies do not have an adequate access to dollars. So sometimes they end up buying them out from the market. This is one of the factors that has led to the increase of dollar, apparently. So I would not really dwell on that, but the question is very important. And the other factor too is the currency that we use. Basically, we use pounds. On East Africa, they use shilling for the other part, and which is the president now is the chair of East Africa. So to harmonize between South Sudan and East Africa, we are disadvantaged on that. And given the fact that we are a landlocked country, then we need to be very careful with our foreign trade, basically, which is not apparently there. So all the byproducts, they comes through our neighbor countries and then send them back to us, and we have a high level of consuming. So people who, in terms of saying we do have a high level, and the rate will go up. That one, there's no questions about that. But what we will do is basically to address the root cause so that the dollar itself can be able to go back. I can promise that we will not go back to 1.5 as where we started, but it will definitely reduce. And the rate of the dollar, of course, depends with the monetary, with the bank system. So the bank, the policy that exists, and getting the right people at South Sudan National Bank will definitely help, because there are a lot of factors that are actually leading to the fact that we have high rate of dollar.
Thank you. Another thing to black market. Black market is playing a huge negative role in the South Sudan economy. So how you see the exchange rate, dollar rate in black market is more different than the bank rate. And you mentioned before, you talk about the East Africa. If you go to East Africa, if you go to Uganda or Kenya, for instance, you will not see a black market. You will not see people on the street, on the sideway, buying a dollar. My question to you and to South Sudan government, who is control the black market? Why they allow the black market to be in the country? That is affecting the economy. Why the government failed to get rid of black market? Why not government to make sure that everybody can go to the bank to change your money through the bank system instead of black market. So the question is, who is controlling the black market? And why the government is not stopping it?
Well, South Sudanese money should have been, they should be kept in central bank, and therefore we will not allow, our government will not allow such corrupt people to continue in such case. So who control the black market? Simple and clear. It is basically the individuals which are corrupt, either in central bank or either in commercial banks. And so that's who are the ones who get the dollar down to the black market. Because basically, if you are to buy at the bank rate, they find themselves losers. So basically, they want to get.
And those individuals are within the government.
Of course, the money are controlled by the government. There is no individual has the power to control a huge amount of money. And there is no individual as well has the power to be able to issue out the money. So it's basically circling. If you have someone and then they get the money to you, and then you go and sell the money, and then you give them their shares and you go walk away. And then they are also the one that decides how much the dollar rates today. So there is no system that exists in place, that what I could say, and this and these are the issues. If you realize, basically, when every new minister of finance is appointed, you take a couple of 2 to 3 days or a week, and you find he's appointing a new governor, and he's also appointing a new head of revenue. And I have seen this from 5 ministers when I was a minister too. So my question is basically, is it difficult to you to work with the one whom has been appointed? So you find yourself, you have either selfish interest or also financial interest, because basically the Minister of Finance, who is a politician, yes, but the governor of central bank is not. She shouldn't be a politician, and the head of revenue commission should not be a politician. So what is your interest? I can't say it's a political interest, but basically is let me say it's selfish interest, and that's what's actually bringing South Sudan back, and that's what's really affecting the families in South Sudan.
Thank you. My last question, so that we can move to election. As you are a member of the parliament, so what is the role? What is the role of parliament to improve the economy right now? So what is the role? What the parliament can do so that they can to fix the broken economy in the country? Because the economy in South Sudan right now is like I see that member of parliament, they're quiet, they're silent, they are not addressing the issues, and they are not doing their job. Like if they see that the Minister of Finance is not doing his job, why they don't summon him to question him? So what, as a member of parliament, what are your role? Are you guys doing your job to help the Minister of Finance, whether the current finance minister or the previous? So do you guys do your job in parliament? Thank you very much. Go ahead.
To be honest, we are not. And if we are, is relatively. Is relative in a sense that I would remember very much. One time I was summoned by the parliament, and I was able to explain my case. And I think that goes back to the leadership of the parliament. And also that goes back to how much are you committed towards your common citizen. I would simply give you an answer that we are doing our job relatively, not fully as members of parliament as well.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's there's a question coming from Marco Ngor. So Marco Ngor is asking you, why did the parliament not summon the Minister of Finance? I think I asked you this question before earlier. To answer the question, why the rest of the citizen didn't receive the salary. So that is the main topic that we are discussing on. So that's a very good question. So Honorable Peter can answer that a little bit more, but he already spoke about that. And the next question, because this question I'm trying to fold them up so that they're connected with economy before we move to the next topic. Mabor is asking you, has South Sudan government, or especially the Ministry of Finance, what way should you use to figure out the dollar inflation, and what is taking us back from developing our country? That's a very good question. Thank you, Mabor. So go ahead and answer those two questions. And Daniel Valentino, there's a question that she has earlier. I didn't pull it up regarding about, Daniela Valentino. Well, she's asking you about Madut Benson. But my question is, what exactly is the point of me being a commissioner of independent audit chamber, where up state government, if he has resigned my office duties away to the committee? So that the three questions, go ahead, answer those, and then we can move to the
First one, and then quickly move to the other. The fact is that the committee, if they were genuine committee with no hidden agenda, then they should have worked closely, basically, of course, with the Minister of Finance in the state and also the Revenue Authority in the state, because the state generates its own income and definitely can fill in the gap. But it was as if they were completely independent, and most of them refused to work with Minister of Finance. Most of them refused to work with Minister of, the Revenue Authority in the state. That's basically a question. That's why I'm saying there is a corruption that at this particular institution, and also it is meant to make South Sudanese suffer. And that's why we're saying we can't go to Christmas season when we wake up early in the morning and attend parliamentary sessions and go to your own work, and then at the end you have a family. So everyone has a family. So basically, it's not time for us to again suffer as we did at the past. The other issues in regards to the parliament, there are procedures that usually followed. And as a parliamentarian, we just do not grab each and every minister and just summon him on that. We are monitoring the situation very much. And definitely, if no action taken and South Sudanese families goes into Christmas dry as they are, then the parliament, I hope, will definitely take actions. And there are procedures where we summon the minister, there should be there a motion put in place. And that procedure will definitely happen. Unless the Minister of Finance really exert effort to change the narratives.
Valentino, so let me move to the next question by election. As a presidential candidate, okay, that's a good. Okay, that's let me give these people in the clubhouse to give you to ask you a question regarding about finance before we move to election. So go ahead, Wilson, to ask your question.
Thank you, Brother Majid. Honorable Mayen, welcome.
Can you hang on? Honorable Mayen, can you hear him?
Yes, let me mute you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Let me make the mic closer. Go ahead.
All right. Honorable Mayen, greeting to you and welcome to Clubhouse to come and educate us what is going on in South Sudan. First of all, I am a member of the SPLMIG. I'm a member of that party. I support the party even though I'm not working. But it does not prevent.
You can hear him, right? Peter, can you hear him? Okay, good. Yeah, go ahead.
It does not prevent me to criticize what I see is wrong in the party. Now, I did not hear entire interview, but I came into where you were asked about the Minister of Finance, and you talk about the policy. Now, my question, if it appears that you say there is no good policy, the question, who make the policy? Is it the governor of the bank or the parliament or either the president? Because there are blame games here. It seems out that the South Sudanese, we don't know the job description, and a lot of people will be given a job. They will go and sit there and say to us. So that's my question, who really supposed to make the policy? Is it the governor of the bank with finance teams, or is it the parliament, or is it the president? That's one question. Now, you say policy is not there. There was another create during peace agreement, something called cluster. Now it seems like all 5 vice presidents are taking the job of the ministerial position. Now, who is in charge of the Minister of Finance when it comes to the presidency? Who should that one who is in charge of cluster should be blamed too? Now, is it a Minister of Finance report back to the head of the cluster or report to the president? So these are my 2 questions. I will stop here and then we'll wait for an answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wilson. Yeah, Honorable Peter, go ahead and answer his question, and then I will.
Yeah, thank you very much. His questions, I'm just going to give him a straightforward answer. The Minister of Finance, actually begins with the directorates of policy development within the Ministry of Finance. So they do wider consultations, and then in any ministry, they do wider consultation when you have a policy in place, and then they draft the policy. And then the policy comes to what is known today as cluster. Previously, it was directly tabled to the Council of Ministers. The ministers debate this. When it is passed, it's taken to Parliament. And then the Parliament debates on it, becomes a clear documented policy. And out of these policies, that's when, if you want to draft any given law that basically in relations to any, either economics and any sector, then that's when definitely the law is driven. So you cannot draft a law out without a policy, like what we have seen with the youth. So you have a law that drafted for South Sudanese youth, and then the youth policy was not really passed, neither was it in place. And I have seen several institutions, though, that you have an act which is passed by the parliament without the policy in place. When it comes to the relations between the clusters, yes, the Ministry of Finance fall under what is today known as governance clusters, which is being shared by the first vice president. And that governance clusters, the relation because basically when I was a minister too, I was under youth and gender cluster. What happens sometimes, for sure, I do agree with your opinion, is that some of the vice presidents takes over the roles and functions of the ministers, which something I've definitely resisted on it. I said, no, I know my job and I have to do my job. So there is that factor. And because some of the vice president, almost all the vice president are redundant. They should only share their clusters, okay, see what is being tabled by the concerned minister, and if it works well, and if they pass it, then comes into the Council of Ministers. And then in the Council of Ministers, this is where things have been seen. So these are the factors, and I think I will have to get back to you very shortly because of power. Just give me 5 minutes because the power is running down.
Okay, let's take So go ahead and take care of that.
Yeah, just give me 5 minutes.
Okay, so for those of you in Clubhouse and on Facebook and YouTube, so make sure that send your question in. So we'll be moving our next topic. It will be on election. So let me play a little music while I'm waiting for him, so he can take a 5-minute break, and also charge his phone is running out of battery. So just sending in question for those of you Clubhouse, raise your hand, come up. The next you will be attacked. So let me play music a little bit while we're waiting for him.
You say we are free. I need a list to give you more time. It's all. You say we are free. I need a list to bash you when it's gone. I am, Jana Janobi, I am. Mafi Gurus, Kisip Giwasha Shedi. Oh, Gian, Jana Janobi, Gian. Rosubile, Omakulu, and Fotu. Anataban, since 2011, Adiasa, same level today. Anataban, 21 years, final freedom, and we are finding ourselves today. No one is safe on Emily Road. No one is safe on Juba to take a road. Dead bodies recovered on the river Nile. Only God knows when the killers will be found. Oh, no. Non-believers everywhere, the youth are dying on the streets. When we're finished from the bullets of the unknown gunmen and got the raiders. Ayan, Jana Junubi, Ayan. Mafi Gurus, Kisim Giwasha Shedi. Oh, Gian, Jana Junubi, Gian. Rosubile, Omakulu, and Fotu. Anataban, since 2011, Adiasa, same level today. Anataban, 21 years, fighting for freedom, and we are fighting ourselves today. I am this time relevant, where it's time for peace. Oh, in this time relevant, where it's time for our peace. We're praying for this country. Oh, school fees, I don't know what it's for. Me mother is not Takoma. The university Takoma. Bigger gun. Yeah, the promise of free education by Dr. John Scott. Anataban, City Shoe, Mavi May, a legend you shall be. Oh, Anataban, Sabo Shoe, Mavi May, a legend you Oh, Anataban, since 2011, same level today.
We Santo, Man Kolnyang, Mike, Cholgrangawan, Yuping Yarul Pandiri Shet Maniel, Anaketon Niel, Jillo, Wenetona Dol. I think kick, kega bole ken ku Isaac Tiang Wagarde Kegela Emmanuel Winnebanyo Igulu Yor Atenge ki kega buke gade bobaye Anyal nyandia kuwi kapingrin Jemana liet wena jangaro Ajedu kega barandi Madina majaku bole makur kega bole ken ku Isaac Tiang Wagarde Kegela Emmanuel Winnebanyo Igulu Yor Atenge ki kega buke gade bobaye Anyal nyandia kuwi kapingrin Jemana liet wena jangaro Ajedu kega barandi Madina majaku bole makur kega bole ken ku Isaac Tiang Wagarde Kegela Emmanuel Winnebanyo Iye kumaturo makero aweltu Koilu pandin pandin legse kuye baraka tala gudu mogatin yale yukoiti yukoy pondaloy yamati ila yugunni demi kon kudango bugoilo wapanen kayogole ila yukren kijanga yawada kuwashin maningale mane yo koilo ditu kubayin kon yele tanu banan eyo kaya matonarot jemana tonile kujoijo itaya kolmin dubai pi wache punya yuti jogen bani kwandeni kuchina wada hai malira chwe jale kapi kudadi kai kewele banan kudango bugoilo wapanen kayogole aila yokren kijanga jawada kuwashin maningale mane iyo koiro dito kubayin kon yele tanu banan eyo kaya matonarot jemana.
Okay, thank you guys for waiting. It seemed like Honorable Peter Mayen having his phone is out of power, and I think he's not going to be able to charging and then come back. We will do another show either tomorrow, and the topic will be based on election. So for those of you in Clubhouse that waiting to ask your question, please hold your question for tomorrow. So right now his phone is out of power, and then he could not able to return back until he can charge it. So we can end the show at this moment. And then for those of you who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in Lake State Media. We will schedule another show either tomorrow or on the weekend, as we are heading to Christmas. So we will wish you everyone a happy Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. Thank you very much for tuning in Lake State Media. We are so happy and delighted to be a part of this show, this media. We will always bring the information, the issues face our country, South Sudan. Let's reach out to the leaders, and we can come and have a discussion to the citizen. Citizens want to hear from them. And Lake State Media will always reach out to them and bring them to you guys, listen to them what they're saying. So for me, say thank you very much. Have a wonderful Christmas. Enjoy your time with your family. Thank you very much. May God bless you. And may God bless South Sudan. Bye for now.
ina pie wala rumbe kayin William ina will wala pibor kayin William in Juba wala Tori kayam yo kayin William in Benti wala kwaju kaya wow kayin William in Malkal wala Pinyaram kayin William